All right, let's get right into it. If you really want to know how healthy a business is, you've got to look past the flashy profit numbers. You need to understand how it actually handles its cash. And that's where we find this one amazing metric that is basically a company's financial heartbeat, the cash conversion cycle. I want you to think about it like this. Imagine you give a company a single dollar. How long does it take for that dollar to go on its entire journey? From buying materials to making a product, selling it, and then finally, getting that dollar back into the company's bank account. This isn't some abstract thought experiment. It's a real timeline that every sharp investor and manager absolutely has to track. And the tool that answers that question for us is the cash conversion cycle, or CCC for short. It's literally a stopwatch for a company's cash. The clock starts ticking the moment a company pays for something, and it only stops when the cash from a customer's sale is safely collected. That one number tells you a huge story about how efficient a company is.
You see, every single company has this invisible clock ticking away, counting how long its cash is tied up. It's not hanging on a wall, but believe me, it is very, very real. The CCC is how we get to read that clock, and it's the key to unlocking some of a company's deepest financial secrets. So what's the goal here? Well, it's pretty simple. You want to make this cycle as short as humanly possible. A lower number means your cash is getting back to you faster. And when your cash comes back faster, you can put it back to work, reinvest it, pay your bills, jump on new opportunities. That right there is what we call financial agility. Okay, so how do we actually figure out this powerful number? It might sound a little intimidating, but the formula itself is actually pretty straightforward, and it tells a really logical story about how a business works. So let's decode it. And here it is. The cash conversion cycle equals DIO plus DSO minus DPO. You're basically adding up the time your cash is stuck and then subtracting the time you're cleverly using someone else's cash. Let's break down what each of these three pieces actually means. First up, we've got DIO, or Days Inventory Outstanding. This one's easy. It's just how long your stuff sits on the shelves before someone buys it. Every single day, that product is just sitting there. That's your cash, frozen, not doing anything for you. Next is DSO, or Days Sales Outstanding. So, you've made a sale, awesome. But the clock is still ticking. How long does it take to actually get the money from your customer? That waiting period is another chunk of time where your cash is out the door, but not yet back in your pocket. And now, for the really cool part, DPO, or Days Payable Outstanding. This is how long your company takes to pay its own bills to suppliers. Now, unlike the first two, a bigger number here is actually a good thing. Why? Because you're essentially getting an interest-free loan from your suppliers. You're using their money to run your business. And that's why we subtract it in the formula. Okay, let's put some numbers to this. Imagine a company's inventory sits for about 182 days. Yikes. But they collect from customers super fast, in under 4 days. And they stretch paying their own suppliers to over 100 days. You do the math and you get a CCC of 83 days. But look closer. The real story isn't just 83. It's that massive 182-day DIO. You can see instantly this company doesn't have a collections problem. It has a serious inventory problem. So we've got our number, 83 days. But what does that really mean? Is that good? Bad? Well, like a lot of things in finance, it depends. But we can definitely put these numbers into a few key buckets. A high positive number, like our 83-day example, can be a warning sign. It means the company is funding its own operations for a long, long time. A low positive number is usually the sweet spot, healthy, stable, efficient. But then there's the holy grail, a negative CCC. This is a sign of a truly incredible business model where the company is literally being funded by its customers and its suppliers. And this really shows you the difference. A typical business pays its bills, waits for a sale, and then waits to get paid. It needs its own cash, its own working capital to survive that gap. But a business with a negative CCC, it's flipped the entire script. It gets cash from you, the customer, before it even has to pay its suppliers. It's using other people's money to grow. Now, this might sound like some kind of financial magic trick, but one of the biggest companies on the planet has built its entire empire on this exact principle. Let's take a look at the absolute master of the negative CCC, Amazon. First off, their days sales outstanding is practically zero. And why is that? Well, think about it. The second you click Buy Now on their website, bam, they have your money.
It's in their account instantly, often before your item has even been packed in a box. Second, their day's inventory outstanding is also incredibly low. I mean, their logistics are legendary. They know what you're going to buy before you do. Stuff just flies off their shelves. That means their cash is almost never stuck sitting in a warehouse as a physical product for very long. And finally, here's the killer move: an exceptionally high days payable outstanding. Because they're Amazon, they have enormous power over their suppliers. They can negotiate payment terms of 90 days or even more. So they get your cash today, but they don't have to pay for the product until 3 months from now. And when you put all of that together, you get this. And negative CCC is more than just a cool financial metric. It's a deep, sustainable competitive advantage. Amazon is quite literally funding its own massive growth using cash from its customers and suppliers. That is a moat that is almost impossible for a competitor to cross. But hold on, before we all run out and assume every company with a high CCC is bad, it is absolutely critical to understand one thing. Context is everything. The raw number by itself is pretty much meaningless. I mean, just look at this. A clothing company might have a CCC of just 7 days. Amazing. But then you look at an aerospace company, and their CCC is almost 200 days. That doesn't mean they're inefficient. It's just the nature of their business. They build complex things over a long time. You can't compare the two. You have to compare apples to apples within the same industry. Here's another trap you have to watch out for: accounting methods. A company using a method called LIFO might look like it has a shorter, better CCC than a company using FIFO, especially when prices are rising. It's a technical detail, but the bottom line is, if two companies aren't using the same accounting rules for their inventory, you can't really compare their CCCs fairly. It can totally change the story. And of course, there are other things to keep an eye on. Is the business seasonal, like a retailer that does all its business at Christmas? That can warp the numbers. Did they just have a huge supply chain problem? That can blow out their cycle temporarily. And you always have to ask, could management be gaming the numbers by delaying payments just before they report their financials? You gotta look beyond just that one number. So when you put this all together, you start to see that the cash conversion cycle is so much more than just a formula. It's a powerful diagnostic tool. When you break it down, you're looking at the operational DMA of a business, how it manages inventory, how it collects cash, and the power it wields over its suppliers. So the next time you're looking at a company, don't just ask about its profits. Ask about its cash clock. What is that ticking clock really telling you about how efficient it is, how much power it has in its market, and what its real strategy is for winning in the future? That answer might just be the most important story you'll find.